this video, we're going over the brick stitch. Let's get started. Let's do a brick stitch. If you're thinking about the brick stitch and you're wondering if it's just supposed to look like bricks, you would be correct. So first I'm going to cut off my thread. I'm using 6 strands for this just so you can see it easily, so I'm trimming it off. Then I'm going to tie it off at the end, so I'm just taking the end, tying it into a double knot, and then I'm going to trim off the little tail. So, trim. All right, then I'm going to thread the needle. So what I do to thread the needle is I just take the thread, I wet it a little bit with spit, I smush it between my fingers, and then I just carefully get it through the eye. Okay, now we're ready to get started. So think about the brick stitch like you would think about bricks on a house. So we're going to start with our first line of back stitch. It's basically back stitches that don't quite line up with each other. So, and I'm going to do big stitches just so you can see really well. So we're going to start with our first line of back stitch. I'll do 3 up here. I'll zoom in just a little bit. If I can get it to focus, it's been having trouble and I'm not really sure why. Okay, 2. And see, that one's a little bit tangled, so I'm going to just take my needle and straighten it out. Okay, then 3. Having all sorts of technical difficulties today. So the first line is the easy part, right? Stitches relatively the same amount in length. I'm doing bigger stitches because I want you to be able to clearly see what I'm doing. Okay, so the next line we're going to do the opposite. So we have a stitch, say, to here, and a stitch to here, and then shorter ones on the end. So I'm going to take my stitch, I'm going to start on this side, and then just directly underneath, I'm going to go about halfway to the middle of that first stitch. And then I'm going to go about halfway to the middle of this stitch. And then I'm going to go over to meet that stitch. It's the same as a back stitch. We're just kind of making the stitches look like bricks. Then I'm going to go halfway to here. And to meet. And then halfway to here. And to meet. And then generally what I do in the brick stitch is I'll just go back to the beginning pattern of the 3. You can also do a more complicated brick pattern where you decide to maybe make it over here or make it like a 3 where it's 3 lines and they don't quite line up and then you start the pattern over. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to show you the 2. So now we're going back, and sometimes depending on how small the area is or how many threads you're using, it can start to look messy and you lose the effect if you do the 3 different lines. So now I'm just going back to the beginning with the 3 lines. And then you probably guessed it. And also if you have a line, like say you have a space right here, just fill it in with another stitch. It's okay. If you're really a perfectionist and you want to rip out the previous line, you can definitely do that. But you can't really tell once you've added it back. Okay, so now we're going back to the smaller stitch on the side and then the stitches in the middle. So it's just repeating. Once you have your pattern, you're just going back and forth with each of them. The main stitches, the main line with the 3, and then the littler stitches with the 4. This is great for roofs. It can be great for baskets. There are lots of different things that you can do with it. So you also want to try to go in a straight line. If you find yourself having trouble with that, I would just take your pin and just add a few extra guiding lines to that. So this is what the brick stitch looks like. As you can tell, it just kind of looks like bricks, and that's exactly the look we are going for.